struggling to come to grips with reality. Confusion and chaos have become part of me. I seek answers to know where my liberation lies. Only in peace and calmness does that clarity arise. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations. No answers given, only outer temptations. Where can I find that truth inside of me? Realization of what I am is all I'm wanting to see. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. No more redirection, ending the contemplation. Forget fighting reflection. Outer world's a projection. Internal is the cause, external's an effect, put it on pause. I'm silencing the noise, centering, entering void. Truth is beautifully subtle, the voice without a voice. Heart and mind shall settle, making decisions now, escaping illusions of choice. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmission. The wisdom transmissions.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wisdom Nexus. Glad to see you're all here today. It is going to be a viewer topics episode today, so we're going to basically just take any particular questions anybody has from the audience. Again, every Wednesday is the Earth Intelligence Report, so next week I'll be doing one specifically on the human guardians and the moon. And of course, every Friday is Wisdom Nexus. Now, usually I'll have a topic in that sense, but once in a while I like to just leave it to the people that are tuning in if they want to ask anything, and they can basically ask away. So we will go ahead and get started with today's webcast, and I'm just going to say hello to everybody on the chat. And if you guys do have any questions, if you want to do any readings, personal readings, you can do it by donation, or if you have any general topics, you can just feel free to post it in the chat. So, having said that, we will go ahead and take a look and see who's here today, and we'll get started. It's basically just, who shows up and who wants to ask questions. That's really the nature of our webcast today. So, welcome everybody. You're the Fire Horse, Mary, Mahesh, Mats, Jan, Athena, welcome. Hello everybody. Thank you very much for being here. So, let's just see if there's anything on anyone's mind. Oh, another thing I wanted to remind everybody too is Next Thursday is the debut of the interview I've done with Michael Sala. So I'll be posting that link onto my YouTube channel once it's ready. So you guys can check that out. It was a really, really wonderful interview. I had a great conversation with Dr. Michael Sala. So that again is debuting next Thursday. Once it's out, I'll post a link here. Okay, so let's see what questions we have for today. Mary just says, "Hi Brad, just wanted to say thank you for doing these podcasts for us." No problem. I mean, thank you for showing up. If no one shows up, then I don't really have a podcast. So, but again, thank you as well for being here and sharing your perspectives. I appreciate it. This one here is from Mahesh. Mahesh says, "Comet 3I Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth on the 19th of December. Will the planet experience another inverted winter solstice similar to 2024? Well, that was a little bit of a different alignment in that way. It's not so much that you're going to experience an inverted solstice twice. That really was just for that particular year. Because what it's doing is it's actually turning everything around. And my God, have we seen it, especially in 2025. We've seen everything come out into the open. The funny thing about the year 2025, with it being a 9-year, is that everything is really just being reflected upon. It's like a reckoning year. It's a year of reckoning, which means we're not really putting anything new into the collective consciousness. We're reflecting, we're reviewing, we're taking a look at everything that's culminating from now and the past 9 years, ending a cycle. Really what we'll see in 2026 will be a little bit more different. So I really would not refer to the winter solstice as an inverted solstice or anything. That time has come. I would say that it's still putting together its power source, and it's now bringing about a greater state of change. So this has really been a wake-up year. This has been a year of saying, okay, well, there's going to be some more brutal stuff that we're going to look at. There's going to be a lot more revealing that's going to be exposed, and people just looking at it all and now starting to react to it, right? That's really the nature of the 9-year. But when we get into next year, it's a ripping the door off the hinge type year that's coming together. So that will represent new beginnings. That will represent new things. That will represent new opportunities. That will represent revolution. That will represent transformation. Okay, so that's really what 2026 represents. So I would not refer to what's happening in 2026 based on what I just described as thinking that it's going to lead to another inverted solstice. No, we've already turned it the right way around, and now we're seeing the fruits of it coming together. Right? So that's really how I would say it all together. But yeah, it's an interesting premise nonetheless. Thank you for your question. This one here is from Matt. Matt says, "Hi Brad, have you heard of Kangen water and its effects on us humans, plants, and animals? A Japanese company called Inagic, which is the creator of water ionization machines." Yeah, you don't need them, right? They're too outlandishly expensive. Some of them I hear about $3,500, $4,000. You do not need to pay that much for good water, okay? You can go, and if you have a natural spring in your area and you got some jugs, go out and get some water from that, right? If you're just getting spring water, you have what you need. If you want to get alkaline water, well, you can just get like a pretty cheap filter like on Amazon for like 30 or 40 bucks, right? You do not need a $4,000, whatever the hell that is, water filter in that way. So no, to me, that's unnecessary. And to me, that just feels like people are trying to line up their pockets with an invention that, what if it breaks down, right? And what if there's not a lot of support that comes together with shelling out $4,000 for a rectangular piece of garbage? So no, I would not be supporting anything in regards to a Kangen one. I've heard about them or others like them in that sense, where they basically get a salesman to your door and they're lugging this big rectangular box-like thing, and then they're trying to plug it into your sink, and then they fumble over your kitchen, and then they knock in over something, and then they break a vase or whatever they're doing, right? So no, I would say skip the clown show, skip the theatrics, because a lot of those particular devices are theatrical in that way. And if you actually start comparing a lot of data, their results can be very, very questionable. All you need is alkaline water, right? Spring water has that. Alkaline water filters have that, and they're cheap. Like I said, especially if you just go and get some spring water in your local area, you got great water here that's going to help you to detox. So I don't think you need to shell out $3,500 to $4,500 for a box, right? That just does all these theatrics. It's very theatrical, right? And you don't need that garbage. So that's my perspective on them, because I've seen people sell these things over years. That I'm not sure if they were called the Kangen water, but they're very similar, right? They're just lugging these big heavy things right into your kitchen. You press a few buttons and it's a nice cool display. The thing weighs about the same height as a human male. Maybe it's about a good 200 pounds or something like that. And they're just putting on their show. Look at this. Beep, bop, beep, boop, beep, bop, boop. Right? It's garbage. It's theatrics. So you don't need it. Stick with spring water. Stick with alkaline water. That's all you need. That's when I'm working together with people on the Personal Transcendence package. I'm just telling them, just go ahead, and if you want to grab like a cheap filter from Amazon for like 30-40 bucks, that's alkaline, and you got a pH meter that you can test it with. And like with mine here, I have one that's 8.84 pH, and I got it for like 35 bucks on Amazon. It's perfect. I don't need anything else. And again, if there's a local spring nearby, maybe I'll grab some water jugs and fill up and get that. So it doesn't really cost me that much. So yeah, be careful with that. Those are theatrical, really. Certainly have seen models like that over the years, and not a fan at all. Okay, well, if you're basically making water that can be made from 2.5 pH, you're basically putting a lot of acid in the body. So hopefully that's not on anybody's case. You also don't really need anything past a 9 pH. Right? So if your water filter is basically at the 8, 8.4, 8.5, or up to 9, that's all you really need. Just between, I'd say, the 8 to 9 pH scale. That's everything, right? And like I said, I can get that from my own water filter that I paid about 30 bucks for, right? So why would I need to buy a $4,000 rectangular box that says heavy as a human male on my counter because it has lovely little LED buttons? So no, I mean, I've seen those things just over the years, and they're not worth the money, right? They're just not worth the time. So from my own perspective, save your money, get something that's a little bit more affordable that does the job. Keep your water around 8 to 9 pH, and you're going to do really well. Get some spring water from a local spring, and you're going to do well. Okay, that's all I do. I don't need some funky Kangen water or whatever it's called. My own perspective on it. So there you go. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? This thing is going into the yellow right now. Can everybody hear me okay? Is it too quiet? Let's take a poll. Can you guys hear me okay through the mic? Maybe I have to crank it up even more. Like, it's already super cranked up. I don't know what's with this microphone, man. Hi. Okay, let's see. We'll move it up to 200%. There we go. Hopefully that makes a difference. Okay, great volume. Yes, it's okay. Pretty good. Okay, thank you. Like I said, guys, I want you to know if you hear my microphone in a crappy state, if it's not loud, just let me know. I'll boost up the volume. I'm already giving it like a 200% boost. And these are like this is supposed to be like a super top quality microphone, right? And it's giving harassing results. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. This one here is from Jan. Jan says, "Hi Brad, can Adronis talk about something I've heard? The flower of life was hijacked eons ago by malevolent aliens, so today's flower of life is not accurate." Well, he's talked about this in the past as well, so I can basically tell you that when we're looking at the flower of life, it's true that the flower of life itself represents a rendition of the actual grid that is torus in nature. So this is what Adronis has said, is that if you really want to look at the true geometry of the universe, you would look at the torus and you would look at the hyperboloid. Okay, so you would look at the hyperturcoid. So that's the donut shape, and then the hyperturcoid is the hourglass. Okay, those are the two true geometries. So whenever you're looking at the flower of life, it is a rendition of that. It's basically kind of like a stepping stone. If you're looking at the Metatron's cube, like what I have back here as well too, that too just represents certain solids. Again, the Platonic solids that are coming together to represent a kind of like a stepping stone towards the true geometry. but they will utilize these particular forms of shapes and geometries because it complements curvature. So if you're looking at the flower of life, it's still a very powerful symbol because it does have curvature in it. If you're looking at something like the Metatron's cube back here, it's still a very powerful symbol because it reflects the natural curvature of the two geometries, right? The torus and the hyperboloid. And that's really the only two geometries that actually exist. Everything else is a rendition, a truncation, a modification of those two geometries, often just seen through different perspectives. Do I see that there would be ETs that would be manipulating that in a certain way, because that's why you have inversions, right? Now, inversions are not really quote unquote a bad thing as long as they're with their counterpart. But if they're not with their counterpart, then you're basically looking at it lopsided. So anything that is still missing or incomplete, or maybe half of the equation, is still going to lead to incompleteness. It's still going to represent limitation. It's still going to have conditions to it. So there have been certain cults, you could say, or secret societies that have utilized certain forms of geometries like that, right? So you could look at something like a flower of life, or you could look at something like a unicursal hexagram, or you could even look at something like a Metatron's cube. And they can be utilized in regards to both divine and nefarious purposes. It just depends on the person. It's more about the intent, right? That is a placeholder. That is a platform. That is a geometry portal. Now, what you do with that particular portal depends on you, right? It's all about the intention of the caster. So again, you could take something very beautiful like the Metatron's cube and completely pervert it and utilize it for portal systems, or utilize it for control situations, or utilize it for mind control and all that. It can certainly be used that way. It has that double duty, right? It could be used for something to elevate you, to be like a chariot that moves you up into higher divine planes, or it can be something horrifying and nefarious and can be used to control people. It can be used to basically work with psychic warfare, okay? So these are, again, renditions. They are transformations. They are working in complement to the original blueprint. But even when we look at some of the codes that would go through a Metatron's cube or a flower of life or a unicursal hexagram or whatever it may be, they all have different orientations based on what the caster is trying to set up as a grid. So what the grid is based upon the intention of the caster. So it can be both positive and negative in that way. It's a big topic. It's a big discussion. But like I said, the only two natural geometries that exist are the torus field and the hyperboloid, right? But they can be configured in different ways, like what we see here. I keep pointing this way. Like what we see here with the Metatron's cube in that sense, is it's all pointing back to that type of geometry, but it's working with stepping stones. It's a matrix. It's an algorithm within itself. It can be reconfigured for certain purposes. When we look at the Metatron's cube, yes, we're looking at the power of all 5 elements, but like I said, depending upon the caster, it can be utilized for great divination and heightening into those higher planes, or it can be nefarious and horrifying and used for war, right? That's how it can be. So I wouldn't really just look just at extraterrestrials. I would look at exactly what humans have been doing with these particular types of geometries, because they can serve that double duty. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much, Jen, for your question. Okay. Elaine asks, do you see any effective treatments for dementia appearing in the near future? Minerals and alkaline. Yes. That's all you need, my friends. It really is just working with what I'm helping other people to understand right now when I'm doing the personal transcendence package. Number 1, I'm working with the Kundalini healing power to help with their energies, to basically help balance them. That helps on a physical level, emotional level, and mental level. The second aspect is minerals and alkaline, where we're actually eating pure mineral, alkaline foods, and you're putting that in the body. You're replacing your old diet. The only reason why there is dementia is because there's mucus involved. There's a lot of mucus involved. There's nervous system issues involved. The idea of the brain is also not getting enough prana, or what we could also refer to as oxygen, okay? So there are constrictions taking place with one's own nervous system based upon stagnancies. that are being affected through the body's own environment. The environment of the body becomes toxic, it becomes eroded. And when there is bodily erosion, because of these toxins that are ingested, that are breathed in, that are eaten, that are drank, that are thought, that are felt, okay, that are conceived, these are the natural inputs that come into the body, and if very badly aligned, will represent toxicity, okay? So the key to that is, number one, working with your life force, learning to work together with chi, working together with prana. If those of you who have actually done a lot of the deeper studies about kundalini or jing, you can also utilize that and work with that too to help clean out and preserve a great deal of the life force energy, which means we're basically taking it and we're wringing it out, and we're wringing out all of that filth. And with that filth, there is the clearing out of the filth that represents alkaline and mineralization. So you're alkalining your body, you're mineralizing your body. You're putting things like sarsaparilla, you're putting things in like stinging nettle, like kelp, like Irish sea moss. You're putting things in like moringa powder. You're putting things in like cilantro, wild blueberries, okay, barley grass juice powder, bladderwrack, okay, a lot of sea vegetables that have this richness of minerals in it. Baja gold sea salt, right, has over 92 of the 102 minerals the body needs, okay? So all of these things, when you start implementing it together, you're cleaning out the body. So a person with dementia primarily has some problems with their nervous system, and with the nervous system and all of that mucus that can basically start to erode the brain, this is where dementia comes in, right? So we are able to fundamentally clean that out when we adjust the diet of a person, right? When that person has been eating nothing but starch or flesh or anything of that nature, and that is continuing for many, many years, the brain gets eroded, the nervous system gets eroded, the spine gets eroded, the organs get eroded, the cells get eroded. You have all of this erosion, and what is the body's natural defense? Acid, mucus, inflammation. That's the body's natural defense, trying to put out these quote-unquote fires. What happens is that the toxicity becomes so great, the liver itself becomes so deeply eroded that it now becomes toxic and sluggish and fatty, and the organs now start to degrade because there's all kinds of acids being brought into the body by eating meat or any other particular type of foods that are much more heavily acidic in nature. Then again, what happens is all of that starts to eat away at the body. So what we do is we start doing alkaline reinforcement. We start working with minerals, and then we start working together with the body. So again, like I do with the personal transcendence package, is I do 50% of the work. 50% of the work is working with the Kundalini healing power. It's working with the Kundalini itself and actually going in and helping to clear out and charge up the body. When the body has a significant amount of charge, the toxins that are contained within cells, organs, etc., start to disperse. As they disperse, they actually start going into the bloodstream. As they go into the bloodstream, they start being ejected from the body. So we start cleaning up the lymphatic system. We start cleaning up the endocrine system. We start cleaning up the digestive system. We start cleaning up the integumentary system. We start doing all of these things that are transforming the body altogether, right? And even though it's a lot of systems, it's all working together through interconnectedness. So the only nature of reason why dementia is there is it's nervous system erosion, brain erosion, and erosion that is caused through mucus buildup, and basically being able to flush that out through the nature of high charge with working with Kundalini healing power and working together with higher states of life force energy that help to flush out a lot of those toxins. And alongside together with that is minerals and alkaline that's going in and flushing out the body. I have had a pretty toxic body myself, right? Because I've had food back when I was a kid, and I ate the worst kind of food you can imagine. They were horrible, right? There was all kinds of candies and sweets because my mom basically gave me all kinds of candies and sweets when I was very little, and that becomes addicted, right? It becomes a drug. And especially as a kid and as a teenager, as a young adult, I just start eating this horrible stuff. I'd be eating candy. I'd be drinking Coca-Cola, right? Like just buckets of it. I'd be drinking an excessive amount of coffee. And even though that goes back about 25 years, it still stays within you. It still goes in it's still in your joints. It's still hardened in your arteries, right? It's all there. And when you're doing alkaline cleansing, you're getting all of that crap out of your body, right? And I've had gout flare-ups because I've been getting this stuff out of my body, because it's basically been embedded in the joints. So yeah, I mean, I had a very, very nasty habit of eating bad food as a kid. And so I've had to, now as a grown adult, having to clean all of that out with a combination of Kundalini together with alkaline and minerals. So any particular disease has the ability to be cured when you work together with alkaline, minerals, and even life force energy, right? Just the ability for you to do breath work, to do controlled breathing, to work together with longer exhales is helping you. If many of you are familiar with the microcosmic orbit and know how to use the microcosmic orbit, that can significantly help you as well too, because that's energizing all of the centers of the body at once by working with the microcosmic orbit, right? Mantak Chia here on YouTube also talks about that quite extensively, right? Looking at cosmic breath techniques, looking at the idea of going into the organs and rejuvenating them with pure love. That's another great thing that works, right? So we're looking together with energetic science together with body terrain science that complements the nature of alkaline and minerals. Like I told you guys just a few days ago, I dislocated my left shoulder. And as I dislocated my left shoulder, I had to go back to the hospital. Actually, I had to go see a doctor yesterday because he wasn't really doing anything. He was just giving me a spiel, right? Stuff I really wasn't even interested in hearing. But nonetheless, I went to him. And he started looking at my left, basically just talked about my left shoulder and saying, oh, this is, you're 46 years old right now, and then you dislocated your shoulder back when you were 44 years old. So usually when you're older, it's not so much about shoulders being commonly dislocated and blah, blah. He was just throwing me all this stuff that really didn't matter, didn't mean a damn thing. And I basically told him, I said, well, I'm healing my body right now with alkaline and minerals. Oh, yes, of course. And that's the thing. Like, he's not at all interested in it. Because I almost felt like saying to the guy, if I was actually showing you guys what alkaline and minerals were actually doing, you guys wouldn't have any patients left. They'd all be cured right now, right? So unfortunately, these doctors don't speak the language. Many of them do not. There might be some who do. But many of them do not when it comes to looking at alkaline and minerals. I said, are you basically getting your clients to work with minerals, work with alkaline? Oh no, we're just giving them pharmaceuticals and we're giving them prescriptions and stuff like that. Yeah, that's basically going to make them more toxic. Are we basically giving them clean eating? Are we giving them recipes? Are we giving them lists about approved alkaline foods that they can basically ingest themselves because they taste good, they're living foods, and they're going to majorly improve you? Oh no, we don't do that. We're just going to be giving them pharmaceuticals, and we don't give them idea about diet and blah, blah, blah. They have to go see another divided doctor about something and blah, blah, blah. Or go see a nutritionist and stuff like that. And even the nutritionists don't even know about this. Nobody really knows about the power of alkaline and minerals. And when you start putting alkaline and minerals in your body, dementia gets cured. Schizophrenia gets cured. Cancer gets cured. Diabetes gets cured. Psoriasis gets cured. Eczema gets cured. Paralysis gets cured. Everything gets cured because you're putting electrical foods, pranic foods, in the body. Your body is getting charged. As it's getting charged, it's becoming more active. It's like basically watching the gears spin again. Everything can be cured with minerals and alkaline and working with your life force energy. You don't need anything else. Period. That's it. That's all you need. And your body now starts doing these miraculous things that start shifting, right? Even after I'm cleaning out all my joints, right? I wake up in the morning, it feels good. I feel full of energy. I've already been able to clear out a lot of stuff. I've already lost like 18 pounds just doing alkaline itself. It has really, really helped me. And even though I know I'm still looking at stuff pertaining to joints, because a lot of that acidic mucus from going back into early childhood years is still there, what I enjoy is that it's actually being pushed out. It's being cleaned out, right? So it's really going deep. It's doing a lot of deep layer cleansing. And I'm always going to be appreciative for that. So going back to the question about dementia, the most effective treatment is alkaline and minerals. And then again, if you are trained properly, you can work together in working with your life force energy, right? Or just doing something very simple with deep breathing, parasympathetic breathing, to getting yourself into the state of centeredness, and then start running something like a microcosmic orbit, right? That's going to do a really, really wonderful thing for you. So that would be my suggestion, okay? It's not through pharmaceuticals. It's not through a magical pill. It's not through anything of that nature. It is through just the simplicity of working with your life force energy, and anything that complements and working together with your life force energy is good, right? So if I'm giving you guys Radiate works really well with that. Radiate can actually help and rejuvenate a lot of that energy, because I've actually had people going to doctors who have actually done live blood tests with Radiate, and we're actually seeing toxins being purged out of their body. It's actually being purged out of the bloodstream, out of a cell. They basically gave me the information back. There was 2 ladies that came to my place, it was just last year, and they wanted to really test out what Radiate could do. And I said, okay, sure, we'll go ahead and we'll do like a 2-hour session with you guys downstairs for free, because you want to give this to science. So they would sit downstairs, the Radiate would be on, and we'd basically have like a 12-screen setup, and they would be sitting in, the zero gravity chairs, okay, and they'd sit there for 2 hours. Then they would go to a clinic and they would get their blood test, and then they would send me the results and basically also the doctor's commentary. The commentary would basically say, yes, we're seeing the idea of toxins being pushed out of the cell and entering the bloodstream. And when it goes into the bloodstream, it will be exiting the body. That is showing right there and then the power of Radiate, as Radiate is actually clearing out toxins from the body. Why? Because it's a scalar technology. EE systems or light systems is not a scalar technology. It claims to be by Dr. Sandra, or I don't even know if she is a doctor, but she was basically saying that, oh yeah, it's all scalar, so it's not scalar, right? If you're looking at scalar, you basically have to have some sort of coil. If you don't have a coil, then you would basically need to try and create one in the astral, like what I have done with Radiate, and they don't do that either. So there is no scalar technology in EE systems or the light system at all. Even looking at the original inventor of the light system, Robert Religa, I believe his name is, he never created a scalar system. He is basically creating a light system, basically working together with chromatic light or multi-chromatic light or polychromatic light therapy, together with powerful affirmations that work together with mathematics, that work with math engines through it. And it's extremely powerful, but it's not scalar, right? Radiate is scalar because I've placed scalar into it, right? So that's the astral nature of it. In the causal, in the astral, we basically have overlays together with the program that is generating the scalar for Radiate. So this is exactly why Radiate's able to do what it does. And of course, when I make Radiate Amrita, which is in progress right now, it's going to take that technology to the next level. So anyways, I'm babbling, but nonetheless, this is important knowledge to look into, right? If you do work with technology, let it be technology that complements your energy field, that works together, that helps to expand it, that opens up, that gives it high states of charge. Radiate does that. I can't speak for any other ones because I don't really work with other ones other than working with the EE system, right? So that would be my perspective on that. Okay, let's see. So let me see where I am here. Rose says, question, a lot of people I know are going to take their new poke. They cannot understand, they don't need it. Is this stuff now better than the old? No. Because there's no such thing as a vaccine that cures people. There never has been. A vaccine is never necessary, right? The only thing, as I've said, the only thing that really makes you well is how you govern your energy and how you're working with minerals and alkaline. Your body is a mineral body. It's not just a food body. It's a body made out of minerals. And if we're not giving those particular minerals to the body is going to starve. It's becoming malnourished. And so thinking that there's going to be some inoculation and thinking that that is going to resolve your situation, it's not, right? This is, again, is pharmaceutical garbage. Because it's the same thing when you're looking at vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, right? When you're looking at that through pills and supplements, those are garbage, okay? Anything that involves a vitamin, period, is fundamentally created in a laboratory, Okay, they are lab creations. Vitamins, multivitamins, they're lab creations because they're not getting them out of nature. Do you see any particular plant around you growing these cylindrical pills from its leaves? Right? So why are we basically thinking that anything pertaining to vitamins or inoculations, vaccines in that sense, is actually going to do you any good? It's not. They are, again, a bogus pseudoscience. Okay, that's the true pseudoscience. I don't care if I get slack for that or what, but it's the truth, right? The whole key is, and like I said, if I get flack for this, big deal, but the whole key is that looking at all of those things from laboratories is never going to do anything. This is humanity basically subscribing to chemicals instead of herbs. Do you guys know any particular human that has been able to naturally develop a herb? Naturally develop a natural medicine that comes straight from the earth with no modification, with no nothing whatsoever. No such human being. So even in ancient texts, even when we look at the Bible, that herbs are going to be the healing for all nations across the world. You know, they talk about herbalism. Do they talk about chemicalism? Are we talking about chemicals that are going to go into the body and heal you? No, they're going to go into the body and debilitate you. Even when we look at Hippocrates, who is the founding father of all medicine, what did he use? Did he use herbs or did he use chemicals? What did he use? He used herbs. He didn't use chemicals. Chemicals are toxic. Chemicals are poison. Chemicals don't belong in the human body. Pretty much every vaccine has a chemical. So how is that helping anybody? Guys, this is not complicated. This is not difficult to figure out. The more that you're staying with the natural alignment of nature, where nature is providing you these first generation, original generation plants that are helping you to heal, that's what's going to cure everything. It's herbs. And it has stood the test of time for many thousands of years. Like I said, some of the greatest herbalists can actually be found in Africa. Okay? Africa is really where the founding fathers and mothers of herbalism began. It started in Africa because Africa had the most delightful and beautiful natural pharmacy in all of the planet, right? It's that nature's pharmacy. But of course, Africa has been ravaged, right? Because it's so resource rich. It even goes back many thousands of years of even off-worlders coming here and ripping out a lot of minerals and resources of Africa, right? Africa really was not just the motherland, but it is the holy land for all the divine resources that we have on the planet, right? We have plants, unfortunately, that do not exist anymore, but if they did, we would be able to find such powerful foods that could heal up conditions within a matter of hours, right? And of course, really the next big runner for that would be the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest, of course, and a lot of pharmaceutical companies have sent agents out there to look at the Amazon rainforest to see exactly what these plants do. They had to basically go with the medicine people, not shamans, medicine people, into the jungles of the Amazon and learn exactly what particular type of plants do what. And what they would do is they would just basically swipe the plant and then they would take it back to the States and then they would put it in laboratories and they would analyze it and say, oh, well, this must be the active ingredient. And so they rip out all of the other supporting ingredients that are crucial to this for it to work properly. And then they make that into a drug. And it doesn't work. And that's what humankind has done. That is what has happened with the chemical market. Because pharmaceutical companies are in the chemical business. They're not in the herbs, right? They're not herbal at all. They are completely and totally chemical based. And I'm pretty sure most of you already know this, right? So that is not helping anybody to heal. That is destroying people. That is destroying lives. So when it comes down to the idea of getting pokes and people thinking that this is what they need, well, that's a result of conditioning. That's a conditioning. That's what they've subscribed to. And this is something that they have to live through. They have made that decision. We have to think back into our life that there have been situations in the past that we made some big mistakes and we had to go through them and we had to change them. change them for the better. These people have to go through their mistakes. They have to go through their big shifts here, realize what they've done, and then decide to get out of it, just like many of us have had to do. So like I said, we continue to support. We can always offer help and support in the best way we can, but ultimately it's up to them, right? Like I said, my own mother was taking COVID-19 vaccine when I was basically telling her right on chat, don't do it. Don't do that. It's like, yes, okay, dear, I won't. And then she ends up doing it, right? So like I said, it's not just with my family, it's with many other people that come to me and talk to me and say, Brad, my family is all about the inoculation. They're all about the poke. You know, I really don't want them to take it. What can I do? I said, you can't do anything, right? You have to kind of let them go through this whole thing. Unless you plan to duct tape them to a chair and keep them in the basement and turn off the lights and lock the door so they can't go out in public, then I wouldn't recommend that. But like I said, you have to let people make their own decisions, even if you don't agree with them, even if you know that their decisions are terrible. It's like looking at our kids, right? You don't want them to make bad mistakes, but they have to. It's the way that they shape themselves, because we made bad mistakes too, and we had to reshape ourselves. It's just the way that we learn, right? That's the key. So yes, people are still going to cling to that poke because that's what they think true medicine is, when it's not. And if anybody thinks that that's the true medicine, then they're believing that chemicals are the answer to humankind. But you show me any particular type of chemical that you pump into an average human being that is going to make them live an extra 10 years, that's going to enable all of their organs to function properly, and is going to be able to maintain that condition for years to come. No such thing. With herbs, oh yeah. With chemicals, no chance. So there you go. All right, hope that helps. Thanks for your question. Okay. So Rise Awake says, oh no, sorry, let me just go back to a comment here. Clag nuts? Okay. Most filters will not filter fluoride out of tap water. That's true, yes. And you have to kind of look at the ones. Like I said, I don't just focus on, you know, what the label says, right? I will actually get certain meters. I will look at this through instruments. And then through instruments, I can see if there's chlorine in the water, like in Canada. Really what we don't have fluoride in the water. That's the good news. In Canada, where I am here in BC, we don't have fluoride in the water, but we have chlorine, right? So basically what I look for is using instrumentations to see if the chlorine has been removed. And it certainly has, okay? So it's different where other people may live. There may be fluoride in that way. And there may be certain mineral filters that you can get that can help clean out fluoride. Yes, because especially in the United States, that is extremely common where they have fluoride in the water. But here on the west coast of BC, there's no fluoride in our water, thank God, right? But there is chlorine. So that, again, is being cleaned out through the filtration system that I use. And like I said, I use instruments to double check on all that. And that's good. You want to make sure that you're having instruments that can detect fluoride, that can detect chlorine, that can detect lead and all of that. And make sure that the filter that you have is doing the job and cleaning it out. And sometimes you may pay 70, 80, 100, right? I'm not talking about the stupid Kangen water things, but I'm talking about, you know, high quality filters as well too. You may have to pay a little bit more, but like I said, you basically have to do some experimenting. You have to use instruments and see exactly what's being filtered out of the water. So there you have it. So this one is from Rise Awake. Hi Brad, how are you today? All is well. I'm wondering what you foresee for Canada in the next 6 months. As you know, we are very much spiraling downward under the carnage corruption cartel. Only temporarily. Only temporarily. This is all part of things that need to happen because, like I said, it's kind of like what I was just talking about with the nature of chemicals, with the nature of how we're shifting the body. We need to go through these things, realizing they don't work, and then shift into something that does. Well, that's exactly what's happening on the political arena with Canada, okay? So let's take a look and see what is happening with Canada within the next 6 months. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Akashic reading on it, and then I'll look into the tarot as well too, okay? Yeah, it's basically on the way out, and I would say that Mark Carney here as Prime Minister is not going to last very long. There are going to there will be people who basically want his head, right? People will just get so unbelievably sick of this person. He doesn't have a plan. He has no experiences running the country as a prime minister. He's basically just a stooge, right? But as we're in a 9-year right now, these things have to play out because as a 9-year, all you're looking at is much more of reckoning-based situations. the result of actions that have primarily happened within the past 9 years that are now playing out here. And then as we get into a 1 year, that's where things start to change. So change will be more prominent around a 2026 year, which is a 1 year, okay? With a 1 year, new beginnings, new seeds being planted, new transformations. So I again don't really see him in office for much longer. I see he's going to be one of the shortest prime ministers ever. And I feel like he's going to be ousted, okay? But it needs to play itself out through a 9 year here, as we're just about to come into November. So through November and December, more playing out of that stuff. And like I said, very much like what's happening in many cities across the planet right now, a big revolution is going to hit. And no one is going to stand this person anymore. And they're going to demand that he's out. And there's going to be more and more retaliation in regards to whatever he's trying to cook up. And he's going to be opposed every step of the way. And the weakness he also has is that it's a minority government, right? And the minority government has a very strong way of shifting him right out of office. So that also is something I feel that's going to be bound to happen. He's going to be ousted. He's going to be losing his position here. Perhaps, I guess, I would feel going into 2026. But let's take a look now in regards to Canada over the next 6 months through the tarot and see what the tarot has to say about it. Yeah, it's a waiting game, that's for sure. Okay, definitely a waiting game that's taking place right now. Yeah, we're basically about to see Canada combust. Okay, so the situation right now is that it's the Hanged Man. Okay, these things have to play out. Things have to play out. People have to really see exactly what they've gotten themselves into. Because, like I said, a lot of people in Canada voted for this person. This person just did the ultimate Jedi mind tricks, saying he knows how to deal with Trump, he's a leader of power, he's a leader of strength, he knows how to get things done, even though he has absolutely no experience as a politician, really, at all. And people bought into that. And so basically we need to watch exactly what they're doing, but as we're watching it, it's kind of like an intentful watch, right? We're becoming illuminated as we see exactly what's happening. This is a show. This is all part of a movie that needs to play itself out as people will now start to see in horror that Canada is on the verge of dying, right? It is basically on its last legs. And this is exactly why in Western Canada, there's more talk about a coalition to basically separate from Canada, okay? And that is growing more and more each and every single day. So the buzzer has already sounded, okay? So all of these stooges that are here in Canada are fall guys. They are basically criminal cartel organizations that work for super wealthy elites. And the buzzer has sounded on them. The trumpet has sounded. Okay? So basically we are looking at the complete and total breakdown of the Canadian political system. It is all being broken down. It's being shattered like glass. Okay? When we look at the present time right now, we're seeing how everything is dilapidated. But what we're ignoring are these two cups behind us, right? Because what's happening here is that we're looking at the past and we're not looking ahead. We're weeping for things that have happened, but you're not looking at all of these changes that are about to take place behind the scenes that is actually going to move into something better. But before it can move into something better, we need to watch the entire system fall because a new system is going to take its place. Just like what's happening in Canada, just like what's happening in the United States, the UK, Australia, Italy, Hungary, etc. All of these different places are basically about to hit a very big tower moment. And that tower moment that is coming together is the wrecking ball that is going to knock down all of these old systems that have been completely infiltrated, that are being taken over by corporations and self-interest groups that are only in the business of trying to make the super wealthy wealthier. So that needs to collapse. That is a wrecking ball. And all of this is going to come about, and it's fueling the fire for very, very angry people, right? So the entire Canadian population is now going to be outraged, and it's going to lead to revolution. So that's what's taking place. Revolution comes together, and as there's new elected leaders, there's new transitional government, there's new changes coming together. And this points to 2026. Okay? So that's what's taking place right now. So this is why I keep saying to many people, not just to my fellow Canadians, but to many other people from countries all over the world, my friends, it's the exact same thing that's going on. There is nothing unique about what your government is going through right now, as in comparison to many other governments all over the world in different nations. They are all about to drown. The wrecking ball is coming, and it is going to knock them off. But that wrecking ball are the people themselves. The people are the wrecking ball, right? It can't come through any other way. There is no other wrecking ball other than the wrecking ball of the people. So the people are the ones that are basically going to stand up and say, no, we've had enough, and we're going out in the hundreds of thousands or even the millions, filling the streets so you can't even see the street anymore, and it looks like a river or a sea of humanity. And everybody is stepping up. And of course, they're going to try and do their counter protests. They're going to do their old tired shtick, where they're going to try and sabotage the idea of revolution, but it becomes so strong, it becomes so big, it becomes so overwhelming that they break down. Even as they talk about right now that Mark Carney is actually looking for advice from Pierre Poilievre. Has anybody followed that? He is so absolutely terrified about trying to unleash a new budget that he has to talk to the leader of the opposition to make sure, what should I do? That's never been done. Okay? That's how absolutely in terror they are. They are doing everything they can to try and get away with their crap, but try not to make it feel like it's going to upset the people. Impossible. And this is why, again, that they even have to turn to a leader of the opposition to basically talk to them about negotiating and consulting pertaining to a budget. That's unheard of. Right? What's wrong with this picture? This is because they're about to collapse. That they know that people are going to be outraged, that they know people are going to take to the streets. They know that people are exhausted. They know that people have been getting every single penny that they have ripped out of their pockets, and they have nothing left. And this is going to lead to people that are going to be so unbelievably angry that they may start to get violent. And they basically may want to raid Ottawa and basically break down the doors of the legislature and say, to hell with you guys, we're taking over, right? It is the nature of revolution itself. This is exactly what's happening. Okay, so we're looking at the idea of a transitional leadership, but in 2026, the shit is going to hit the fan. Not just with Canada, not just with the United States. Every single nation on the planet is going to have the shit hit the fan. Every single one that has been affected by these mafia members, by these criminal cartels. And the door is going to be ripped off its hinges, and people are going to become unleashed, because that is the energy that fits pertaining to what we're seeing right now, with the state of how governments are, with the state of how leaders are, with what we're seeing, with how there's unbelievable inflation, how no one can afford a home anymore, where you basically have to have like 5 or 6 people in a 2-bedroom just to try to make ends meet. There's no more of that, right? This is all something that represents severe endings, reckoning, right? This is a reckoning year. It's a year of reckoning. It's a year of culmination. It's a year of endings. It's a year of death. That's 2025. 2025 could be compared to the death card in the tarot, is that we're seeing endings. We're seeing everything fall apart. Okay? We're seeing the old systems collapse under their own weight. And then as we get into the new year, as we get into 2026, we have a 1 year. Well, what could that represent in the tarot? The magician. Okay? So the magician is coming together, and a magician creates. They're utilizing all of the elements that they have to manifest something new. And guess who the magician is? You. You're the magician. Every single person is the magician, right? It's not about looking at governments and leaders and thinking that they're the magicians. They've been a magician of a type because they've been pulling wool over people's eyes for so long. And now that wool is starting to become transparent and people are seeing through their bullshit, and they're not going to survive, that being the old leaderships. The old leadership, the old oligarchs, the elites, the super rich, everybody, is going to become super poor. These people that are waltzing around the planet right now who think they have billions or even trillions of dollars at their disposal are about to lose every penny. They are going to be taken down. Every single bit of wealth is going to be taken away from them, and they will have nothing left because they're no longer allowed to have fortune, especially with us now moving into a 1 year. They're about to lose all of that. Everything, every penny of that. And guess where all that money is going to go? Back to the people. It's going to go back to countries. It's going to go back to all of us. And some of you may look at this and say, Brad, come on, you're fantasizing right now. Well, like I said, guys, this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm receiving, right? The whole idea of people standing up and cities being filled with people, going down so many city streets where there's thousands or even millions of people there. I saw that 5 years ago. The idea of revolution where, again, people have had enough. They are angry. They are upset. Leaders are scared for their lives with these people, and they're going to collapse, right? All of these things. We're going to be looking at major re-elections. We're going to be looking at new transitional governments that are going to be taking place. We're going to be looking at the rise of new financial systems coming together. All of this is going to take place. Everything pertaining to the old is crumbling away. We're going to see news networks starting to turn against the people that once funded them because these people are going bankrupt and they can no longer afford the media. And so the media is going to be a turncoat and turn right back against them and bash them into the ground, which means they're basically, in a way, taking the sides of the people. That's what's going to happen. Right? So you are looking at a complete and total collapse. I mean, again, I've said this for years, everybody. I'm just hoping it sticks, especially for those of you who've been tuning into me every week, that not a single stone is going to be left unturned. Everything is going to change. Everything is going to shift. You are not going to have the old Canadian system anymore. It is going to die. You are not going to have any old governmental branches anymore. It is going to die. You are not going to have the old financial systems anymore. It is going to die. You are not going to have centralized banks anymore. It is going to die. All of it is going to die. It's inevitable. It can't stay. It's part of an old era. And we're in the transitional cycle between an old era of Pisces and a new era of Aquarius. And when you move into Aquarius, Aquarius doesn't like centralization. Nothing centralized can remain. It needs to die. It needs to be bulldozed to the ground so that there's not a single crumb of it left. And Aquarians feed off of decentralization. They're free-spirited. They're independent. They're sovereign. That's the nature of an Aquarian. Right? Aquarian wants that freedom. They don't want to be bogged down by rules. They will question everything. They will stand up and they will want freedom and they will want independence. They will want sovereignty. That is where the planet is going. It's not staying in a centralized hub because that's what's crumbling right now. If it wasn't crumbling, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But it is crumbling, and it's falling, and it's dying, and it's being destroyed, and it's being demolished. And what is it primarily being demolished by? It will be demolished by the people. People are going to destroy centralization. They are going to destroy capitalism. They are going to destroy communism. They are going to destroy socialism. They are going to destroy everything that represents the isms pertaining to centralized society. None of it will stand. It's all going to die. That's where we're going. That's what's ahead for us. Okay? So again, I've said this before as well too. I wish I could just scoop out of my head what I'm seeing with the times ahead and show it to all of you, but I'm doing my best in words to try to interpret it, and I know I'm not doing the best job with that because words just won't do. But we are seeing the start of a whole brand new era where we will not even be able to recognize a new earth that we're moving into, right? Something that is completely and totally decentralized. The closest analogy I could put it to is the Star Trek future, right? Is looking at the idea of exactly how the Star Trek future is run is going to be very, very similar to what we're going through pertaining to decentralization, where there's much more cooperation, there is collaboration, people are working together to better themselves. There's going to be space exploration. We're going to have contact with star ancestors, with star family in the next couple of decades. That's going to be coming, right? So there's a lot of things that are going to be changing, and we can't even really describe it all because this has never happened to us before. But this is where we're going. It's going to be a beautiful time ahead. So I hope I answered that question about Canada, Rise Awake. Gave you a little bit more as well too, but like I said, this is what I've talked about for a very long time, and it's happening. We're seeing it unfold here. And this is what many of us have asked for. We've asked for this time, and now it's coming. Now it's here. But rather than, and this is something that's important as well too, rather than concerning about what is ahead for people, how about looking into what's ahead for you? Because as I've talked about, that the power for you to manifest and bring about a world where you are truly in a state of peace needs to come through you. Rather than worrying for the world to change, just let yourself change. Don't worry about where the world is headed, right? If I was to basically look at how the world is composing itself and where it's headed, and I had to stay in alignment in regards to the world is going, again, we would not have this conversation. I would not have this webcast. I would not be doing this work. Because if I'm basically like a little turtle just following all the other slow turtles of the collective consciousness, where they worry about everything, where they obsess about everything, where they're concerned about their livelihood, where again it's a lot of selfish goals and so forth, then I wouldn't be able to do this work, right? I do not wait for the collective consciousness to change itself. I work with myself and go within and go deeper and explore and see exactly what I'm going through and cleaning it out. As I suggest this to everybody else, the power you have to manifest is just, there's no words for it. It's pure heaven, okay? But you have to get behind your own power. If you feel that you have to basically submit yourself like a subservient slave based on everything that the collective consciousness is going through, well, you're greatly mistaken. As I've said, everything pertaining to the universe is flux. Do you notice that when I talk, there are spaces in between that have no sound? Do you know that as we perform action, there will always be spaces of silence in between those actions? That everything that makes up the world or the universe of how we commit to action always has spaces in between? That's because everything within life itself is in a state of flux. So when you start to go within and you do some breath work and you start feeling yourself and saying, I'm moving into peace. Now, I may start to see something very simple. I'm just going to see a white sphere within my mind, and that white sphere is going to dissolve all fear. It is going to dissolve all despair. It is going to dissolve all chaos happening in my life. And all I have to do, whether my eyes are open or whether my eyes are closed, I just keep my eye on that white sphere. And I see its glow, and I see its love, and I see everything about its purity. And as I just focus on that white sphere, because I have intended that white sphere to be the complete and total resolving of my pain, of my suffering, of my anger, of my sadness, of my fear, of my despair, of my conflict, it starts to happen. Everything around you now starts to become peaceful, which means people are not yelling at the top of their lungs. You're not concerning about bills surmounting in the mail. You are fundamentally transforming your life where everything now starts to become a resolution. Now here's a bill on the table. Oh, well, in the other envelope, there's a big check. And now that check takes care of that bill and I have some left over. But Brad, how is that possible? I wouldn't know anybody who sends me a check. You don't have to, because these are things exactly how they manifest in these ways. Now all of a sudden you're offered something that can represent a strong amount of financial abundance that takes care of all of that. If you leave these things to life, life itself will take care of it. And this is why we're just working together with a simple white ball that represents purification of your life, which means you're just focusing on the ball. If I'm talking to you right now, I'm seeing a little white orb right here that represents that purification of the white vibration. And it's scrubbing down everything. And all I'm doing is giving it focus. I'm giving it attention. I'm just looking at it. I'm giving it that particular state of intention to letting that encapsulate into my reality. That's all you have to do. That's it. And with that, everything now starts to be miraculous. It feels miraculous. All these things are coming your way because all you're doing is you've put an intention into something very simple that represents a powerful symbol. And again, it's something as simple as a white ball, a luminous white ball that you just keep looking at and you keep seeing it. And that is your purification. And that is what's tranquilizing all conflict, all suffering within yourself by looking at a white ball. And it works. What is it that is going to make you think that it's not going to? What makes you think it's not going to? Has life ever denied you your manifestations? No. The only reason your manifestations become denied is because you're still in doubt of them. You don't think that this is going to work. And as you think this is not going to work, then basically that's the manifestation. I'll think about this, but no, it won't work. And so you've made your decision about that. You've made the manifestation a part of it not working. But when you have that pure manifestation and you're seeing that intention, that if I'm looking at a luminous white sphere directly in front of me right now, whether my eyes are open or whether my eyes are closed, and I'm giving it focus, I'm giving it attention, and I've already put my pure intention behind it, that it is going to clear out every bit of suffering that I have, it is going to resolve everything, it is going to bring me into peace, and everything within my life right now is going to be taken care of. And that's your solid 100% manifestation. And it will work because there's no sabotage there. There's no doubt there. Because again, if there is doubt, there's 100 thoughts in your mind from other people, not you, but other people that say this isn't going to work. And what are you doing? You're crazy. Brad, you're crazy. You're insane doing this, right? Because this is how I started in my beginnings. I just started looking at spheres. And I looked at spheres and I started programming them and intending them, and I got deeper and deeper into the higher knowledge. And I was always taken care of. I was always supported because that's what's in my intention. My intention is not based on doubt, hesitation, disbelief. This is something that all of you can do. See a white ball. See that luminous ball. Put your intentions in it. Whether your eyes are open or they're closed, it does not matter. Whether you're driving your car and looking at that white ball, that'll work too. Whether you're walking down the street and you see that white ball, that will work too. While you're doing the dishes, having a shower, getting the bed made, right? Whatever it may be, that will all work because your attention is going to the intention. Bring your attention to the intention. Do the white ball. Give it another color if you want. If you feel another color is more prestigious for yourself, if you feel it's a golden ball, make it a golden ball. If it's an aqua ball, make it an aqua ball. If it's a silver ball, make it a silver ball. I say the white ball because the white light, the white energy is the purifier. It's what purifies, right? That's it, my friends. That's all you have to do. There's nothing else to do other than just focusing your attention on intention and utilizing the white ball as your carrier for that. Plain and simple. And everything in your life will change. Fundamentally, guaranteed, as long as your intention is pure and it's not sabotaged. All right, let's move on. Clear Mind says, hi Brad, what is emotion truly made of? Is it just electricity, magnetism, or prana? What is the difference between electricity, magnetism, and prana? Clear Mind. What's the difference between those three? There is no difference. When you're talking about emotion itself, it is electricity, it is magnetism, and it is prana. When you're thinking that electricity and magnetism and prana are separate from each other, they're not. You're looking at the very same thing. Electricity is prana working at a much more lower level. It is actually much more of the decay of prana. Magnetism is again part of, is what we would even refer to as prana, right? Magnetism is what makes the material world material. Magnetism is what enables your emotions to be emotional. Magnetism is what's making your feelings felt. Magnetism is what's making your thoughts thoughtful. Okay? But magnetism is not the key ingredient here. If we're looking at it scientifically or technically, we're looking at the dielectric. Okay? When we're looking at the dielectric, we're looking at the very force that is responsible for the perturbation of a concept. Okay? So we could call it the force, we could call it the essence, the whole thing, right? We could call it discharge, right? We could call it convergence. When you're looking at magnetism, that is a divergence. Okay, that is moving away from the center. When you're looking at the dielectric, the force, the essence, that is the convergence back to the center. So when you're looking at electricity, magnetism, prana, they all follow under the magnetic property. But the magnetic property, in its own way, is the essence of the essence or the dielectric or the force itself, right? That force that made that center form to bring about the material reality, to bring about material life, was all caused through the dielectric. And then the magnetism starts to spread, it starts to circulate, it starts to move through divergence. And then we have a geometry. We have the torus field, we have the hyperboloid. Okay? So when you're looking at the nature of emotion, it is electricity, it is magnetism, and it is prana, because all three of those are one and the same. Okay? Hope that helps. You're the Firehorse says, hi Brad, Adronis, if the body is fully detoxed plus mineralized correctly and it is nearly impossible for disease to manifest, what would be the cause of death? The idea of death, and like I said, this is just coming through me here first, but the idea of death in that sense becomes non-existent, because even when you leave the body, you're not dead, right? This is again something pertaining to a human fallacy. That when you feel there is an absence of life from a body, you think somebody has died, but they haven't. The body has died. An instrument has expired. An instrument no longer functions because a soul is no longer being the pilot for that instrument. But the soul never dies. So, Chris, this is something that Adronis and I have been talking to you about in sessions. When you look into the idea where you're not only just mineralizing yourself, but you realize that you're transcending the fear of death, there is no death. Which means you're afraid of something that really is not. You're afraid of something that has never been proven. You're afraid of something that only comes through the nature of appearance. Death is only an appearance, and this is why it's considered to be the ultimate boundary of illusion. The idea of death holds and maintains the ultimate boundary of illusion of separation. If you are in a state where, yes, you're taking good care of yourself, you're alkalining yourself, you're mineralizing yourself, that's great. But that's not going to get you over your fear of death, because that's something that needs to come much more into realization. Alkaline is not going to give you realization. Alkaline is going to give you a very healthy body, and you're going to live a long time. But it's not going to give you the realization past the fear of death. So again, as you asked, is it nearly impossible for disease to manifest, right? So again, when you're healthy, when you're working with alkaline, you're not really going to have disease, because all dis-ease is that's a byproduct, my friend. That's an effect, okay? The real nature behind what is truly in a state of disease is the condition of the body. Is the body eroded? If the body environment is damaged, that is what brings about disease. But if the body environment is healthy and it is rejuvenated and it receives minerals, you could live on this planet well up to about 200 years of age. That's how powerful this is. And when you start incorporating the minerals together with mindfulness about your own nature of energy, about who you are, about what represents yourself, about looking beyond prana, looking beyond energy and seeing yourself as a soul, you have the best of both worlds. So the whole idea of the nature of realization pertaining to yourself, to realize that death is nothing more than a byproduct boundary point of separation, illusion, trickery, you see past that and you realize there has never been death. Even when I die from this body, my friends, it doesn't matter to me because I go on living. I'm aware of that, right? In the old days, prior to doing this path, I was afraid to go to sleep at night because I was afraid I was going to die. And this is way before my spiritual awakening. So I would basically almost have the sweats at night, fearing that I was not going to wake up the next morning. I kept having this fear of thinking that as soon as I go to bed, I will die. In a way I did, because again, that helped to clear out a lot of that illusion. You have to get it within yourself to actually start looking at the power of your breath, start looking at why you think the way that you think, why you feel the way you feel, why you act the way you act, why you're being the way that you're being. And when you see that, it just goes back to like Ramana Maharshi would say, who am I? And when you spend more time in the who am I, and you feel that connection to I, you realize that that I itself is eternal. It will never end. So be it with you, right? So the whole idea of the cause of death is ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of death. And the cause of death is only seen in that particular way due to a lack of understanding what's really happening. This is an instrument. This is not you. The mind is an instrument. It is not you. They're wonderful support systems. We can work with them and we can accomplish a lot of things with them, but that's not who you are. Who and what you are transcends the boundary of body and mind. And when you see yourself as the I am, when you see yourself as the I, you're moving much more into the nature of witness consciousness, and that witness consciousness is eternal. Because what that is that's your own 2 feet standing right at the top of the membrane of the mind looking down. Okay? So the witness consciousness is still not the ultimate state, but it's basically giving you a much more greater vantage point to see past the illusions of what you think death is, when it has never existed. None of you have ever died. And that's one of the biggest breakthroughs you have to realize. I've never died. No one's ever died. A body has died, but that body is not me. That's an instrument I'm using for the time being, for as long as I'm here on this plane, to get a fundamental understanding of this plane, because it represents a richness of life. And as there's a richness of life, and as I enrich myself a lot further, I get a greater understanding to the nature of life as I start paying attention to life, rather than thinking that, oh my goodness, my time is up here in the next few years and I'm going to croak and drop dead and that'll be the end of me. And when you get into that idea, that is the separation illusion consciousness. And that's all death is. Death is nothing more than separation illusion consciousness, right? So there is no cause of death other than the idea of what you imprint on it through ignorance. So hope that helps. Okay. Thank you. How are we on time? We got a few minutes left here. Okay, this is from Elaine. Elaine says, I was asking for my partner who is in late stage dementia and is in a nursing home. Your response will help me to improve my own health. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. And like I said, if he's always open, if a partner is always open to these ideas, then you can do it, right? As much as we want that partner, that person, whoever that really wonderful person is in our life to feel better, we can't make them feel better. Right? All we can do is suggest and talk and negotiate and work together with them if they want to be worked with. But this is where you need to kind of step back and saying, well, the love that you hold for that person, is that love coming from them into you, or has it been in you all along? Do any of you know the answer to that question? When you love someone, that love that you have, is that love coming from that person to you, or is that love within you there all along? What's the answer? Can any of you comment on that? Any of you have any sharings on that? If I deeply love somebody, and that love I feel is coming from them into me, or has that love been within me all along? Yes, Al Peter has it correct. The love is within you. You can't feel the love from anybody else. The love that you deeply have for someone else is always within you. Or Brad, they say that they love me. Well, that's their love coming from them, right? It doesn't come from you. They look at you and there is that spark of love within themselves. And that's their love. So, having said that, what you see out of a person who you deeply love is with you forever because it has brought that love from within you to radiate outwards, which means really what this comes down to is that you have a deep love for everything that that person represents, which means you're really just loving that aspect of yourself because that person is an aspect of yourself. As Adronis has said constantly, there's nobody else here. There's just you. So therefore, when you love a partner, when you love a mother, when you love a father, when you love a brother, when you love a child, whatever it may be, you look at that through the impression of what they're showing you as a reflection. But for you to actually love that person has to come from in here. It's not their love flowing into you. There's no such thing as that. Okay? When you love a person, it's because that love is opening up, it's shining, it's radiating, because that person is an anchor to representing that aspect of love within you. And when that person loves you, it's the same thing. It's their love opening up and radiating because you represent an aspect of that love. But that love is coming from themselves, right? If we deeply miss a person, my friends, I'm sorry, but that's just attachment, right? That's an attachment to a body, and that's an attachment to a personality. You would need to know that the love that you have for a person has always radiated within yourself. And if it's radiated within yourself, that means it's always there, which means the very thought of what that person represents that opens your heart is always there, right? It is not because of the passing away of a body that that love ceases to be. What really is happening is that you long for their company because you're lonely. You long for their company because you're attached to their physical presence. And any master would tell you, you need to learn to let go of that, and you need to cherish the essence of what made you love someone like that, because that love comes from you. There is no death. There is no other. There's only you. That's it. So when you love another person, that love's coming from you. When that person loves you, that love is coming from them. And so that is the key here, is that there is that mutual inner love that brings two together. And it's a beautiful thing, but like I said, it stays with you eternally. It's not just something that's transient. Attachment is transient, but the nature of love of what someone has done to you, where you feel that love open because of who and what they are, is a part of you that has opened up and welcomed in that love. Don't attach to it thinking that it's going to go as soon as that person goes, because that is the illusion of attachment. Be careful with that, right? Okay, let me see how we're doing here. I'm just going back to where I was. Okay. So Ben Kramer says, Brad, will your diet change help you grow back your hair in the future? I'm honestly not even thinking about that, my friends. I'm sure if a person is much more devout than I am to really bring their hair back, then they can. From what I've understood is that alkaline can basically help to thicken your hair, right? I can't say if it's ever going to open up roots again and basically bring back a full head of hair. I've never met anybody who has done that. But that's not my plan, right? I've accepted the idea that I'm losing my hair. I'm accepting the idea that I'll give myself the shaved head look, and I'm okay with that. So that's not my plan. right? So I have no plan of growing my hair back, right? I enjoyed the days when I had a full head of hair, but I'm also understanding that it's all just part of a cycle, and if I keep attaching to it, then I'm going to, get lost into the attachment. No, I'm completely okay with my hair phase as it is. I'm not too concerned if I'm follically impaired, right? So I'm good with it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. I'm just looking at any other questions here, as we're almost out of time here. It's like the Grinch steals everything, but we discover what's important, our love for ourselves, each other. Yes, I mean, really, the whole idea is that person is helping you out because they're opening a center, right? Really, when you look at a person, again, whether it's your mom, your dad, your partner, your children, whatever it may be, that person that comes along and you just feel that love for them, what has happened is that you've opened up a center within yourself, right? It's like looking at brain cells, and you open up a cell, you open up a center within yourself, and you enable yourself to feel that love. But again, what happens in the society here, of course, is we think that that love is conditional, and rather we attach to that person. And if that person has a mood change, well, then our love for them's changed. Why? Oh, because they did something bad, or they have a difference of opinion in myself. That's ridiculous, right? That's you getting attached to the status quo of the earth, getting a status quo attachment of humanity, right? That's moral humanity, and that's a poison. That's a toxin. You're forgetting exactly what this one has helped you to do. They have helped you to open up a center where a flow of love within yourself is so prominent and so strong. But now you've completely forgot about that because they did something. They said something. They thought something. They took some type of action. Or now they've left this world. And so basically you feel that your heart is tainted. It's not tainted. It has everything to do with your beliefs. It has everything to do with your rhetoric that you put upon yourself. It has everything to do with your conditioning. And when that conditioning clears itself out, there's that pure love stream again, right? That love stream that you felt for the first time, right? Maybe it's looking at your child as a baby, right? And then watching them grow up and you feel that love for them, right? But now they've changed because now they're getting the rebellious stage, or, they got this boyfriend now that you can't stand, or whatever it may be. And now you're what's happening is your own emotions and mentality are going into that stream and throwing tar and mud and filth into it. That's what's happening, which means that stream is still there, but you're throwing all of this toxicity into it based upon your conditioning of mentality, your belief systems. All of your conditioning is there, and it's what's causing a despicable fertilization of that stream of love. And you need to clean that up, right? As you clean that up, that pure stream is there, which means, for example, even though my daughter is seeing this guy who I really don't care for, I love her with all of my heart, and that will never change. There's the stream coming alive, right? So even though my daughter talked back to me and I felt it was very disrespectful, I've let that go, and I love her with all of my heart. There's the stream again, okay? Even if my daughter were to leave this world and pass on before I did, my love for her would be the same. I will not mourn for that. I will not mourn, because the nature of mourning is, again, just the admittance that you've had attachment to somebody. Mourning is the admittance to attachment. That's what mourning is, right? So we're kind of mourning, right? We can look at it as M-O-U-R-N, we're mourn, but there comes the morning, right? The morning is that the sun will rise in the sky again, and it will stay for the day, and it will again move into sunset, and nighttime will fall. So this would represent the idea of shifting through a cycle. To mourn for another is to basically look at the cycle, that it is a process, and then you will move past it. And if we're not moving past it, we are seeing exactly the identity of attachment that we have held because of constant mourning. It's supposed to be a cycle. It's not supposed to last. Another important thing to take home with you. Okay? All right. We have two more. I forgot that we have two more donation-based questions here. EUM142 says, "Hi, Brad. Please see question below. EUM142 says, or Eugene, hello. Some people say it's not normal seeing limited sunlight during colder months, from October until May. If true, then what do autumn and winter look like without weather modification shenanigans? Well, let's take a look at that. If we were actually able to see the entire Earth cycle in regards to its weather without any particular form of human modification technology, and depending, of course, where you are in the world, right? Let's just say that maybe you're in Europe, okay? And now we start moving into the we start moving into autumn and winter time, okay? What does the weather look like? Well, like I said, what's going to happen is that there may actually be a lot more sunshine than there may actually be clouds. Because what's actually happening is that the Earth is going through such a fundamental change that there's going to be some unnatural weather that actually is natural. You may actually start to feel that there may actually be warming periods in between the autumn and the winter. And it's not meant to be unusual, but because the Earth is going through such a fundamental shift, the weather changes are going to reflect her intensity. So you may actually start to notice that between the autumn and the winter months, that if there was no shenanigans being pulled based on weather modification technology, you would notice that actually those days may be a little bit hotter, and that the sun could be quite prominent in the sky and actually have somewhat, not major warmth, not like the summer, but still quite prominent with sunshine because of the intensities of the Earth of what she's going through about to give birth. So there is much more of an extremism pertaining to the weather, even if the Mother Earth has her own natural weather cycles as she's processing the birth of a new consciousness. So it is still going to be somewhat similar with the idea of unusual weather patterns that could happen during the colder months. Okay? Thank you for your question. This one here is from the Showman Sauna. Love the name. Hi, Brad. I have a question this week for you. What is your thoughts on the Earth being run by the Archon network, and are we duped as souls to come to this reality? I love how you phrase it, right? You're straight to the point like I am. It's not just about Archons. Archons do play a part of it, but I've also talked about the Jinn. I've also talked about demonics, parasites. I've talked about extraterrestrials, the Draco. I've talked about rogue AI, right? You have many fingers in the pie. It's not just about Archons. Archons represent one faction, okay? But you have a multitude of different factions that see the Earth as a crown jewel, simply because of what she has, the richness of life upon her surface. I mean, she is a rare planet within the cosmos. You are not going to find another Earth like ours, right? She is very, very special. She's very unique. And this is what has got a lot of fingers in the pie. Okay, so looking at the fingers in the pie with all of these different groups, they really cannot come down here and just take the Earth for themselves. The only way that it would be possible for them to actually start walking on the surface themselves is to convince human beings to enslave themselves and to destroy themselves. If that happens, and the human race is completely extinct, then they could basically go back to walking the surface of the Earth again. But because human beings have a right, I would not even say right, have a karmic connection together with the Earth and being this surface-based race, they have jurisdiction over the lands. These particular groups do not. And if they basically tried to break that, they would be expelled from this entire experiment altogether. And that's not what they want, right? They would have higher forces coming in and basically could just immobilize them and take them right out of this. There is a game at play here, my friends. This is why I say solar systems are farms, they're gardens, they're things of custodians. There's rules here to follow, right? There's laws, there's prime laws, there's constitutions, there's treaties to follow. And if you violate that, you leave. You're out of here, and you won't be able to get another chance at it. They don't want to lose their chance. So because they see the Earth as such a prime jewel, crown jewel, they will try to work in manipulating the human race by basically getting them to be involved in an enslavement program. And that enslavement program really will be the idea of working with the idea of currency, where currency binds you, working with the idea of governments and politics and kingdoms and kings and queens that have happened throughout the centuries and religions and all that. All of these particular binds that create restriction in regards to human beings attempting to know themselves. And as time progresses, they will basically phase out of those kingdoms, and then there will be other particular plans that are trying to eliminate a great deal of the civilization from the face of the earth. That's why they have wanted this extermination protocol for humanity that basically would go to 90% extermination of the planet. And the 10% in that sense would remain, but they would basically remain in areas that would basically enable them no power whatsoever. And with that great majority of human race extinct, that would be enough to sway the favor for other civilizations to come back on the planet and start utilizing the surface and the resources of the earth. That is the entire point of why these things have happened in the way that we have. It's all of these particular groups, even with fingers in the pie, saying that we will basically convince the human race to enslave themselves, and then at the particular time, the great majority of them will be exterminated to the point where the decision can be swayed, where other civilizations can come upon the surface. That's the whole idea behind all of this, right? This is all part of more greedy creatures from different dimensions, from different realms, that want to utilize Earth for their own means. And that Earth has basically used human beings as a safeguard to keeping them out, right? Because that's actually the true role of humanity. Humanity is meant to be stewards. We're meant to protect planets. We're meant to make sure that life continues to flourish in its natural way. But of course, we have not been doing that because we've volunteered ourselves to be slaves. That's basically what happens, is these beings can't just come down here with mighty spaceships and with laser guns and stuff like that and forcing you into slavery. It can't be done that. This is the funny thing about it, is that humanity has to volunteer to be enslaved. We have to volunteer it because that's the only way you can do it, right? Even if there's an invasion that's happening, there's going to be higher forces that are going to come in and stop them completely and throw them out of here. So that's exactly why it has happened in that way. Are we duped as souls? No, because the soul knows exactly what it's doing. A human being that is completely in their state of own ignorance has no clue of what they're doing. But when you actually look at it from hindsight, and when you see the nature of the soul, which is looking at the bigger picture, which is your journey to the right hemisphere of the brain, you're not being duped at all. You are actually moving into one of the greatest higher educational wisdom of learning there is. And we don't see that because we, again, play the nature of the victim. We play the small version of ourselves, right? So there's small Brad. But small Brad is not aware of big Brad at all. Big Brad is the right hemisphere of the brain. And when we actually see exactly why the soul chose to have this incarnation, chose to be here, so because it is going to give you the greatest reward that you could never possibly imagine. It is going to show you life in ways you could never see. It is going to show you the idea of how you can actually make the decision to choose the light despite all the darkness that's around you. It is what creates masters. It is what creates a pure being. And everybody at some particular point is going to get to that level. That's what the earth does for you. That's what this life does. But we don't see it because we're little us. And we're struggling and we're fighting and we're doing all this because, like I said, we don't know how to live. You know how to survive, barely, but you don't know how to live. And because you don't know how to live, you don't know why you're really here. But when you actually start talking to the bigger you, they tell you you have no idea of what is actually happening to you on this planet. That even despite all of the conflicts, hardships, and darkness that you have gone through, you have still chosen compassion through the light. And that is what makes a masterful being. And you will see the rewards that it brings as you move into greater expansion of yourself, whether on this world or beyond it. And believe me, I have seen it. So, no, we are not duped as souls, because that's only coming from little us. When you look at big us, we have hit the jackpot as souls based on what we are able to accomplish and reach on a planet like this. All right. Okay, everybody, we are out of time for today. I want to thank you all for your great questions. I just loved having this nice conversational chat with you all today. Again, I'll be back next Wednesday and next Friday as well too for the webcasts. Thank you, everybody. And again, I'll post the link with Dr. Michael Sala on Thursday here on the YouTube channel as well too, so you can all check it out. Take care, everybody. Blessings to you all. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Namaskar. May it be well with you. Bye for now.